Welcome to this presentation on how to design and initiate carving on a rectangular bowl from raw wood. Rectangular bowls are the easiest to design and offer the highest utilization of a log because we're not carving away the corners of a log as we do in ovals, circles, triangles, and other shapes. For raw wood carving, their designs do not need any special procedures because all the design is done at the edges away from the carved out middle. Therefore, they're easily redesigned after drying once the warpage has been addressed. Additionally, rectangular and semi-rectangular bowls offer enormous flexibility in their width, and in their length, and in their depth, as well as a number of other features can be added to them. Other than the amount of material that I can remove with a chainsaw because of the bowl's straight edges, the physical carving process is exactly the same. Your eye will guide you, first with the interior, then to the exterior. So let's look at some bowls where the wood has led the choice of a rectangular design. This bowl design seemed to be the logical design choice because of the very thick layer of sapwood in the original log, which could be showcased to complement the richly colored heartwood. It seemed wrong to design traditionally modest-sized handles when it was possible to elevate the rich white ends to an equal visual status with the rich color of the middle. This set of nested bowls, all taken from the same acacia tree, demonstrates significant design variations, even though their aspect ratios were similar enough to permit them to nest together as a set. This was a fun project. Combining an oval bowl nestled into a rectangular top can be a nice geometric contrast. Here, the thin band of sapwood would have been a minor visual element if the whole piece was round or oval. Instead, they framed the piece nicely while permitting the dramatic color and the patterns of the wood to be showcased on top, as well as in the bowl. Success in combining geometric forms requires designing from centerlines to ensure that both forms are oriented identically. Long, narrow logs, such as from branches, moderately narrow trunks, as well as thin pieces of wood, can offer opportunity for centerpieces, baguette bowls, fruit bowls for countertops, and even salad bowls for wider designs. These pieces, each just about 2.5 inches tall, allow wonderful and significant results from logs that would have yielded only very small bowls if the lathe were our tool of choice. This 8-sided bowl is actually designed as a rectangular bowl, but with the corners measured and drawn as angled transitions to the handles. Note that a rectangular bowl design can have ends drawn as curves, angular shapes, squared of any length, and can rise or drop, all based on your preferences. Let me point out another design decision with a rectangular bowl. That is, what to do with the internal corners of your bowl. I use 4 to 4.5 inch carving heads, and you can see that I do not get sharp lines at the bottom of the bowls. I could use a smaller rotary carving tool, but it would still not be a really sharp, thin line. The solution would be to use gouges, but I find these curving transitions to be perfectly fine. Again, personal choice. The rectangular bowl's design process is straightforward by using a framing square. As you can see, the drawing is based on measuring and drawing on the rims, so finding center lines is a trivial task. This is true for both the rough carving and the finish carving steps. In this case, on a piece of loquat wood, I've placed a Nicasso oval bowl within the rectangular top. The center lines can be seen measured as half the width of the drawn rectangle's length and width. The oval is drawn to make sure that its midlines are the same as the rectangles. I did this by using a 22-inch arc to draw the north-south ends first, so they intersected on the rectangle center line at the same distance from the ends, and then used a 7-inch arc to draw the east-west ends so that they were just tangent to the north-south arcs. This process will be repeated when the bowl is redesigned. I next need to design the bottom, which starts by transferring the top midlines to the bottom. Again, with a bowl blank that has the top and bottom parallel and flattened, replicating the center lines to the bottom is very easy with a square. This would be true for the wet bowl blank and the newly dried bowl. Next, I need to define the bottom of the bowl and its feet. I start this by measuring the distance from a board placed on the top's midline, and then with a ruler placed flush with that board, I sight down vertically to see where the flat internal bottom begins its upward curve. This gives me a rough measurement of where the bowl's bottom will be relative to its midlines. These measurements will be used to design the bottom. For the rough carving stage, I will approximate the bowl's bottom by a hand-drawn shape that is liberally drawn to ensure that I'm wide of the bowl's interior bottom edges. Next, I rough design some feet, which you can see is the semicircles in the above oval. And then finally I design a rough carved thickness for the bowl's wings. While the bowl is upside down, I use a marking pin guided by a board to keep it a uniform distance from the bench, and then move the pin around the bowl to create a uniform carving line. Anything on the bottom that is above that line and outside the roughly designed bowl is to be removed. The final bowl's wings will be much thinner when it is finished carved. The rough carving process for the underside of the bowl is also straightforward. If the interior of the bowl is straight-sided, I typically use a chainsaw to cut out large amounts of material under the wings or handles, or I use a bandsaw set at an angle to make the side cuts for a shallow angled bowl, like a fruit bowl. This process of using saws for preliminary removing of large chunks of wood simplifies and expedites the carving process. In this case, with an oval bowl inside the rectangle, I opted just to use the angle grinder to remove the unwanted wood. Rough and finish carving are exactly the same for an oval, triangular, and rectangular bowl, so let's look at that process next.